this to me is like the really fascinating material.
We don't know what the answer is, but we're looking for patterns.
I think we're looking at kind of a type of cosmic alchemy.
The story slowly grew
But still, a lot of people don't know that this technology actually exists.
The possibilities here are pretty mind-boggling.
We can't just believe that it was the work of these lone, troubled individuals.
Like a conspiracy theorist would look at that and say, well, the Illuminati or somebody planned this right
Now,
away
is that
in advance.
or is that by design?
looking for meaningful coincidences.
The same pattern.
You're interfacing with your neural circuitry. They're mapping your electromagnetic field. They interface it onto an artificial intelligence array system with a live handler in real time.
For someone who's paying attention, they can connect the
It's like
dots.
being drugged, but you're not on drugs.
An effort to do everything they could to discredit this idea.
There's a little kind of witty behind-the-scenes banter here.
Hello.
Hello, Aage. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing excellent.
It's good to speak to you again.
Yeah, good to talk to you too.
Mhm.
Looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it's just like an every 2-year thing now where we have you
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, we should schedule it every 2 years.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. So basically, we're going to do an hour with you, if you're cool with that. I've got another person I got coming on, but you know, I think we can fit in a lot in an hour. It usually goes pretty quickly.
Oh yeah.
So I'll just kind of bring you in. So welcome back to Conspirinormal, guys.
Hey.
We're here on the main show. We just did a Romper Room episode, which we're going to have up for Patreons.
Yeah, Studio B Romper Room.
Yep. Yep.
We're getting a little more cinematic.
Yeah, we got sound effects too. Now. So Seraphiel has quite a few new toys going on here. But we've got a guest that we had on 2 years ago and 2 years before that, Aage Nost. Aage, welcome back to Conspirinormal, man.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it usually always is. It's been a couple years, and some people are new to the show. So if you would give kind of like your background, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm living in the United States now, but I was born and raised in Europe, in Northern Europe, in Norway. I was born on a farm over there, and at the age of 25, after completing military and agricultural, becoming an agronomist, I figured it out. That's not what I want to do, so I left and went to the United States to become a commercial pilot. And I did. I flew for a living for 23 years, had a flight school, an international air taxi, and an air carrier in Minneapolis, and figured out, yeah, done it for 23 years. That's enough. So I started doing other things, researching the mind, the paranormal, and it's been a ride, especially after I came down to Tucson. I ended up hosting and producing 2 TV shows, a lot of it on the paranormal. I've had many radio shows over the years, and gosh, I don't know, here I am.
Yeah, we had you on a couple years ago and a couple years before that. I can't remember everything that we covered. It's been a while. But we actually have I actually have a new co-host now, he's actually part-time producing the show. So this is Seraphiel. He's actually from Arizona.
Yeah. You're in Tucson?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm from Mesa.
Mesa, okay, that's right up the road from me.
Yeah. It's what do you mean by how things changed when you got to Tucson? Are you experiencing some of the mysticism of the Southwest?
Well, I ran into some very good people down here,
Cool.
and very spiritual people, very freedom-oriented people, and that's how I ended up with the TV shows. And probably Shane Eden, he was here for many, many years doing TV, and he's the one that got me involved in it. Of course, he's not with us anymore, but there's a lot of good people in Tucson.
Cool, man.
And I tell you, the environment here for extraordinary learning is phenomenal.
Okay. Sounds like a place we need to visit, Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you used to have your own kind of was it like a pirate radio station out there or something?
Yeah,
That you did?
I had a radio station, and that was it was one actually that because we researched the law and we found that the FCC, they don't have the authority to do what they do. And we set up the radio station. We did not get a permission from the FCC. And of course, we expected they would come and knock on the door one day, and they did twice. And we sent them back with papers, and they couldn't do anything. So we were on the air for 18 months. And there's a little bit of a story behind that, because we got very political in the local arena. Whenever the city council or the state of Arizona did something that was totally corrupt, we jumped in the middle of it and covered it. So they hated our guts, so to speak. And we were firebombed and the place burned. But
Oh man.
a week later, we were back on the air again. So, well, 2 weeks, I think. But but we were on the air for 18 months, and then I gave it up. We had some internal conflicts, and I figured, no, I don't want to fight this battle. So, we just let it go.
Yeah, how long ago was that you did that?
That was in 2000 and 2001.
Okay.
Same year that I got on the ballot and ran for Congress.
Did you win?
No. I'm sure glad that I didn't win, because then
Yeah, right.
Washington is not a place for me. I would have been dead in 3 weeks if I started.
What were kind of like your goals in running for Congress, though? Did you have like anything in mind that you were kind of trying to, like ideas you were trying to set place? Because some people that they run for things, they don't necessarily figure they win, but they like to put like issues on board, Where there's anything that you wanted to run on, or?
Well, I had several issues that I was more or less interested in, that I wanted to bring forward. The government cover-up of the UFO issue was one of them.
Uh-huh.
And there were other things that related to privacy that I wanted to address. And those kind of issues, they don't go over too well in Washington, so I'm sure I would have been very popular.
So, Arizona, you obviously you're there now, but were you there in 97 when the Phoenix Lights were going on?
No, I was out of the country at the time.
Oh, okay. Do you have any...
97. No, 97. I was in Omaha. Still lived in Omaha then.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on that? What happened there?
Yeah, it evidently was something, because people saw it. And my take on
Agreed.
it is that it could very well have been a holographic projection that was tested at night. Because we know that the government has tested, they've been working on holograms since the early 1960s, and they perfected it to the point where now that you can get a hologram that is so accurate and so good that it's hard to see the difference between that and the real thing.
Kind of like a Project Bluebeam kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. It could very well have been that.
What do you think the purpose of that would have been?
I think more or less just maybe a dual purpose. First of all, perfecting what they do, and for the second, maybe opening up a few more minds that would eventually lead to a form of disclosure. And I think my take on the disclosure is that I don't think it's going to happen, not coming from government, though there will be one, but that will be either by ET themselves or some other country that will come in and say, yeah, they're here and the Americans are covering it up, or however that will happen. Or we could wake up one morning with thousands and thousands of flying discs in the sky.
Well, I have to ask you, because I think that this has happened since the last time I had you on. You know, that there are some out there, we have a good friend of the show that believes that disclosure has kind of already happened, kind of like this soft disclosure, talking about like Tom DeLonge and what's going on with him, the TTSA, and all that, Luis Elizondo. I don't know if you're keeping up with any of that. The New York Times article that came out in December of 2017. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, disclosure have happened not by the American official government, but first of all, Medvedev in Moscow, he said at the tail end of an interview, he said plain and simple, when we take office, it says we get a dossier. And in there, it explains the UFO and the alien issue, but we cannot talk about it because we are afraid of panic.
Mm-hmm.
That came right from the Russian government. Couldn't get much higher than that. Well, actually, no, you could if you went to Putin, but Putin wants the disclosure too, but he hasn't said anything about it yet. And here, the U.S. Navy have several documents where they admit that, yes, they're here. And they're out there, but nobody seems to talk much about it. In fact, there's an astronaut that said, yeah, we saw them flying right by our capsule. So it's been there. But, you know, the thing is that people expect that the president's going to come on TV and say, yes, they're here. But that's not going to happen.
Sure. But I mean, like the New York Times article back in the end of 2017, I think about like December, that talked about how there was this program that was kind of funded by, I think it was like $20 million, which is kind of a drop in the bucket of the federal budget that was funded by the government. That was a basically admitting that, you know, the government, like, through like Robert Bigelow, if you're familiar with him,
yes,
that they were looking into some of this stuff, like this, and they were almost, you know, the famous like Tic Tac video that has come up recently. Mm-hmm. With the ship the in San Diego back in 2004, as some kind of proof. You know, there are a lot of people that say that is some kind of like form of soft disclosure.
Yeah, it's just one more thing that is let out there for people to see, slowly raise the people's awareness to the point where that when it does happen, people are not going to panic. They're not going to throw the pitchforks in the back of the pickup truck and, you know, drive to Washington. So, no, it's going to be just a slow transition into more knowledge of what's going on behind the curtain. And I think that's what they're waiting for.
I want to talk a little bit about this video that you've got coming out, and I haven't had the chance to watch it, but about the Agenda 21 and the aliens. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on what we're dealing with here with aliens. I mean, are we dealing with like extra like biological entities, or is there something more interdimensional going on? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
It's all of that. When you ask where the aliens come from, I'm not talking about the aliens coming over the border from Mexico. I'm talking about the extraterrestrial aliens.
Yeah.
They come from absolutely everywhere. Space is full of life. It could be coming from an interdimensional existence next to us in a different vibration that we cannot observe from where we are. Comes from higher vibrations, and they lower themselves in vibration down into our existence where they can come and be observed and do things, and then they cloak themselves by accelerating themselves out of our vibration again, and which we see many videos and pictures, videos of people doing that. They sit in the sky and suddenly there's a flash of light and they disappear. That's how it works. Plasma erases their vibration. And we have also aliens coming from different star systems. A good example on that is back in about 5,000 years ago, in counted generations, there was some people coming from Sirius 2 visiting a village in Africa where the Dogon people lived, and they have accounts that has been handed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, over generations. They explain these people came from the second star of Sirius. Of course, they didn't use the name Sirius because they didn't know the name, but they pointed to that star. It looks like one star, and back in the 1930s, nobody knew there was two stars at that spot. But now we do, and the Dogon people was right. There is another star at that spot. And they said they came there to visit with them and told them that we brought you here a long time ago. And they taught them how to conduct a civil and prosperous society and how to grow things. And they were with them for a while, and then they left. And they... So that's just one incident where people were visited from space, and there's many others like that.
With the Western peoples and traditions, do you think that these are the same things as that were referred to as angels or maybe even demons at some point?
Well, that gets into a little different area of research because it can border on religion, and I don't know how far you want to get into that one.
Oh, as far as you want to go, man.
Man, there are no limits, Aage. You can talk about whatever you want on this show.
Oh, okay. Well, that's that you mentioned also when you talked to me about this show, maybe creation. You wanted to talk maybe a little bit about that because most people say,
we can get into that if you want.
Yeah, God created us, right? Well, who's God? And more so, who created God? So there is a man that dates back to the 3rd century BC. He translated a lot of the Sumerian tablets, and he summarized it in a document called Enki and Ninmah. That, and also the creation of mankind. And another document, the Epic of Atra, Hasis. They speak clearly of an alien race that came to Earth 445,000 years ago, and they were alone on Earth digging for gold for 144,000 years. And they came from another system, a star system that is orbiting our soul, our sun. And they goes in between the 4th and the 5th planet, and goes way out into space and then come back in at an orbit that takes 3,660 years on its orbit. Now, the work that they did when they came here to dig for gold was very hard, and after a while, the workers, they did a rebellion. They didn't want to do it anymore. It was too hard for them. So the masters, Enki and crew, they created a servant worker that was smart enough to work and also dumb enough to not ask questions. And they removed, when they created that being, they removed the qualities of long life and knowing what is in the other's mind. It says right in the tablets. That's how they did it. They had many failed experiments in the process of creating this human that we are now. The first one was actually named Lulu. It was not Adam. Lulu was before Adam. And Lulu had no facility to procreate. But Lulu was hard worker in the mines, but they didn't do much work. So they figured it out that they needed to make a mate for him. So they altered Lulu and created another man that they called the Adam. And these aliens now, which are the Anunnaki, they call themselves gods. And they had angels in which they interacted with the people. See, God in the Bible and everywhere was given a meaning that it was never meant to have. And because in the old Sumerian language, Ga'ad means great leader. And the word Angel means messenger. So when somebody say to me that I had an angel come to me with a message from God, I have no problem with that. So you had a messenger coming with a message from the great leader. That sounds perfectly all right with me. I can deal with that. And this creation of the Adam was done quite a few thousand years later after they came here. In fact, man was created 301,000 years ago, according to the Sumerian tablets. And when we talk about the time back then, it's measured in, for the Anunnaki, it's measured in SARs. One SAR is one circle around the sun for them, and that is 3,660 years. And of course, the only reason they came here was to dig for gold, because they needed that gold for their atmosphere. Because on their planet, which is rotating around also a brown dwarf, in our solar system, that planet was losing the upper area of its atmosphere for some reason. So they needed a shielding at the upper atmosphere. So they found out that gold would be a good shielding for that. So they came here to dug gold for a long time and funneled it back to the planet and implemented into their upper atmosphere, probably as a dust or something.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Where are you getting some of this information?
From reading the Sumerian tablets, and I really recommend for everybody out there, get your hands on some of that reading, especially the Epic of Atrahasis. That will open your mind up, because that is an explanation as well as a great straight translation from the Sumerian tablets.
Is this from the Zecharia Sitchin stuff?
No, Zecharia Sitchin done a phenomenal amount of work. There are some things in his, I read them, the books that he wrote, and there are some interpretations that he has that I think came out of his mind and may not be totally accurate. But then again, you know, who am I to say? But that's my opinion.
There are some challenges to the Zecharia Sitchin material.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Michael Heiser. Are you familiar with him? Does that name sound familiar? Well, he's a biblical scholar. He's also an expert in Sumerian and Akkadian. Well, I think Akkadian. I'm not sure if anyone's really an expert in Sumerian, but at least the ancient Semitic languages. And he has said that he really brings a challenge to Sitchin and some of that material. I don't know, like you're not familiar with him, so, but
yeah,
but he does bring some challenge to that.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. I know some others, but the thing is that if he's a biblical scholar, that is one mark against him right there, because I just happened to read the notes from the meetings in Constantinople, Turkey, or Nicaea at the time, from the first meetings in 325 and 326, when the first draft to the Bible was written.
Are you talking about the Council of Nicaea?
Yes.
Okay.
And the meetings there, they were not spiritual or religious meetings. They were political meetings, because Emperor Constantine, he told 223 people, go to Nicaea, create a religion that will unify my empire, and do not emerge before you have done so. Because Constantine was looking at the Jews, and they were so harmonious. They never fought among themselves. They were all supportive of each other. And he wanted that for his empire, because he was buried in wars everywhere.
Well,
and the Bible was created.
Wasn't Christianity already around, though? Are you saying that Christianity, I mean, was because the way I see it with Constantine is that they kind of co-opted Christianity, but I don't know if it necessarily doesn't make Jesus real or unreal.
Well, the thing is, when they met at the meeting in 325, they went through, for the next 2 years, they went through 9,000 scrolls of ancient writing. They picked and chose from these things and rewrote the scroll, burned the original, and they wrote it in such a way that served the purpose of the emperor, as well as crediting whatever was said in the older scrolls to either this Joshua or whatever, God.
Well, we know that there was religious engineering going on, obviously, and Constantine probably was looking at everything really cynically. But I think Adam was just saying that but there had been a surfeit of these religious organizations even before that. I mean, it totally predates, even though that was a state effort. But biblical scholars too are just people who look at the time period from objective historical standpoints. It doesn't should be a mark against them.
Well, that's the old records. In writing my book, Universal Consciousness, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness, in doing the research for that book, I found old surviving Roman records that show that this man, that's supposed, him as Jesus, but his real name, actually, in his wanted poster, he had 3 names. Yahshua Beth Halachme, which was his Hebrew name. He bought land outside of Rome in the year 63. So, according to that, he didn't die on the cross.
No, this is something I've never heard.
Yeah.
There was
his wanted poster actually survived because once the Romans found out that this man was out there talking against the Roman, trying to incite the people in Judea to rise up against the Roman and drive them out of Judea. Of course, they didn't like that too much, so they arrested him and did unspeakable things. But in the wanted posters, there is 3 names for him listed, and also what he looked like was listed. So
did he have long hair?
No.
And a beard.
There is 2 schools of thought on what he looked like. I am going with the appendix to one of the Dead Sea Scrolls instead. And that's the one I'm relying on, because in the wanted poster, I think the Jews were trying to protect him and gave the Romans the wrong description of what he looked like, because he was short, according to the wanted poster, short of stature, hunched over, and bald.
Kind of sounds like me a little bit.
That's totally different than what it says in one of the scripts that came out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And of course, you know that about 40% of the Dead Sea Scrolls are classified. You can't get your hands on it. So that's one of the things that was leaked years and years ago before they clamped down on it. They explain him different. But that's different.
Do you think that this idea that we've been in contact with some kind of other race, is that something that shows up in all kinds of religious traditions throughout the whole world?
Oh, absolutely. I would think so. Yeah.
What are some of the, besides Mesopotamia, are there other ones that really stand out to you?
Well, yeah, like the Rama Empire in India, they talk about the people coming from the sky, and Native Americans talking about them. So yeah, I think there are many different places around the world.
Interesting.
There is artifacts, of course, that there are statues all over the world showing this little gray with big eyes, slanted eyes, and why do we think that they made these statues without having actually seen them?
So, do you think people have been seeing grays for a long, long time?
Yeah, the greys are the worker bees, and they were, whenever the alien species come around, very often they have the greys with them, or they are the only ones on the ship that people see.
Yeah. I know you believe in a multitude of beings that are interacting with us, but as far as the greys, what are some other details about them that you think the purposes they serve and the purposes we may have to them?
Well, there's a book coming out of the KGB in Russia, and of course the U.S. Navy has one too, but they have 57, I think, different species identified. And the Russians have 66 or 67 different species identified.
So this includes like the Nordics and the reptilians and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And they talk about where they come from and what their intentions are. So some of them are friendly, and some of them are not so friendly. They don't mean that they necessarily will come here to, do away with us, but they come here for their purpose.
Yeah.
Not for our purpose.
What purposes do we serve to them?
Yeah, are they like feeding on us, like emotionally, or like
they just need the resources?
Psychically or something? Like what are they?
Or are they just mining?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Well, I think some of them actually do feed on our emotion, because there are higher vibratory species, that interdimensional species that come down here from a higher vibration, and they hang around the physical just to feed on the emotion. Negative emotions is what power them.
Yeah.
The people from the Draconas, they are supposed to be those kinds of species. So it's how they gain power by coming here, and they feed on fear and whatever else negative vibrations might be, I suppose.
So that's the more interdimensional beings, but then there's physical beings, and a lot of them been more mining for gold and metals and elements.
I don't know if they come here for that anymore, because you can see in South Africa, you can see all these mining shafts everywhere around the country. They go. And you can see that the shafts are, some of them are a little bigger. They, the Anunnaki is 9 to 12 foot tall, so you can see that the shafts had to be bigger, and they are bigger. So they're.
So we're kind of we're like an old mine, or just kind of busted, and there's nothing else good. They just moved on.
Yeah, maybe they just exhausted the gold out of South Africa, and I guess they left the diamonds behind.
Earth is just like a abandoned mine.
Well, I mean, if you think about the way we treat it, I mean, it's not the same way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
no difference.
Let's talk about this. Your video. Let's talk about aliens and Agenda 21. What's the connection between the two?
Well, the question is, who is running the show on Earth? Is it the Club of Rome, or is it the bankers, or who do they get orders from?
Yeah.
And who is, I mean, even for the untrained eye, it seems like Earth is being terraformed for a species that no longer needs oxygen. So my question is, who's giving the orders to some of these corrupt government officials that is executing them? See, that's where Agenda 21 comes in. It comes out of the United Nations Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, where 178 nations, they adopted this 350-page document describing how they're going to install a one-world militaristic government where you will have no rights, just privileges, where the unelected body of bureaucrats will be setting down the rules for you to live by and micromanaging every facet of your life. Kind of like now.
It's interesting. We were just talking today. We recorded another little romper room episode where we were just talking, having a conversation.
Available for Patreons.
Yeah, and we were talking about China and how like China kind of seems like this testing ground for all of these. Just they have cities that are entirely closed, control grid. Absolute lockdown, cameras inside of people's homes. Checkpoint face scanning, and do you think China is kind of like a testing for this kind of dystopian vision?
Well, that kind of sounds like London to me.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places who we're actually, I feel like we're kind of there's a lot of cameras around, but I feel like us in the States are kind of more behind.
Yeah, we're a little bit
it
behind.
Might be harder
but
to put it on us,
London have over 2 million cameras. Oof.
Yeah. Oh, that CCTV, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but see, Agenda 21 goes a lot further. They will also be following the guidelines of the International Conference on Population and Development. That was in Cairo, Egypt in 1994, where 182, I think, countries participated. And they decided that world populations is out of control and that the ideal population of Earth must be around 800,000. And every effort, I want to repeat this one, every effort must be done to reach that goal by 2021, which they now have made 2030, because they're failing on 2021. That means murder off 90% of the people on Earth, or somehow they're using it, manage the population down to 800,000. They're managing it. Of course, they're not going to kill anybody.
I mean, that would be hard because we're at what, 7.5 billion right now?
Yeah.
So that means that like killing a lot of people.
Oh, no, they're not going to kill anybody. They're going to manage the population down to 800,000.
It's going to take some time, right? I mean, that's longer than 2030.
Well, the thing about it is that they're managing it pretty well. So far, they have been failing at it, but they're managing with chemtrails, with new diseases that is coming out just about every year. And you have Monsanto. They're doing a good job at polluting people to the point where they should be dying off. It's just that they don't do it. So
I think they've been more successful, like socially. People just aren't having kids, and so I think social engineering has really been the most profitable. If you think there is a concerted effort to do that, then
but that's not working in the third world, though.
No, but when any country becomes developed, this is what will happen, and that's the thinking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have, the South America and, the stupidity of the Catholic Church. They don't talk about, family management. That's not in their vocabulary. So, the people that can't afford it, they have 18 kids. I mean, what's the sanity in that?
No. True. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. But so the aliens are, I mean, they want to terraform the planet. That's kind of what we're thinking here, or?
Well, I think that is one underlying thought, because if we look at what's happening, the pollution everywhere, it's probably not planned, all of it, except for by default because of greed and profit and so on. But on the other hand, there is somebody at the top, and I know that because I have a friend over in Europe. He is working in a Northern European government, and he told me that there is certain people in government, in high-ranking positions in government, that has been promised immortality if they do what they are told with social engineering. Now, there's two ways to do that, of course, the immortality. One of them is by downloading all the knowledge in your brain into a computer chip, place that in an android, and you will live forever. Unless that, the android step in front of a bus. Same thing with you.
I mean, you just download it into another android, right?
Yeah, it can. They have the technology to do that now.
So we have the technology to make, like physical androids. Like we could do it. Like we could transfer someone's consciousness to like an android.
Not consciousness, but total memory. Yes.
Total memory. Okay. So it would fall short of actually being a real human being with its consciousness.
Oh, absolutely. But there is another way to immortality, or at least theoretically it is. And that is because in 2009, 3 doctors were given a Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process. And I know that works because I'm doing it and it's working for me. So this is one of the things I write about in my book there about spiritual science, where I explain how this can be done and how I'm doing it. So this is one of the things that they also can do, but it's not commonly talked about or known because why doesn't medical science talk about this much? Because you can imagine what would happen to Social Security and pension programs if people quit dying, right?
Well, I'd hope they would raise the retirement age at least. To like 365, you can retire.
Yeah, there you go. But on the other hand, too, what if some of us, get retirement age and we kind of say, hey, I worked hard all my life until I'm 65 now, I want to enjoy myself. We should be able to do that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah. But on the other hand, of course, I will never retire because retire to what? I'm having so much fun now that I will never retire from this.
Yeah.
But the thing is that these people in high-ranking positions in government, they have accepted the offer because my friend over there, he had the offer and he turned them down.
Are we talking about like the Club of Rome here? Are we talking about like the real elite people, like the Illuminati? I mean, what are we?
Well, it's because he held a very high-ranking government position. So he was given the offer of immortality. So he turned him down. And of course, what happens normally after that is that you lose the next election and you're gone because they don't want people that is not with them in power.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So just to get this straight, so they're using Agenda 21. I guess the aliens or these beings are using these people to implement this by giving them some kind of immortality. And then they're also terraforming the planet to where we don't have an oxygen atmosphere.
Well, they could perfectly well be nitrogen breathers.
So they would just have to increase the oxygen, increase the nitrogen, decrease the oxygen, and that's all they would have to do.
It could happen. We don't know all of the kind of species that are out there. There may be a planet where there are no oxygen whatsoever, but there are entities and sentient beings there that breathe or exist in a different way.
How do we fight back from something like this? Like, how does that manifest?
Well, I have a thought on that, and that is that we may not be able to outfight them, but we can outthink them.
Okay.
And because, outfight them is tough because they usually have bigger guns than you do and more of them.
Yeah, I would assume they have like better technology, right? So
yeah,
they would have.
That's what the governments are for. it's a criminal syndicate that run the place, because you have to agree to their terms, or they will put you in prison. They will put away everybody that do not agree, to the point where they become a danger to their society.
Yeah.
Their society, not necessarily yours. But outthink them, that could mean something totally different. And I'm in the process of putting together a mastermind group that we're going to be dealing with very shortly here. And I would love for anybody to be part of it. Just come to www.broadcastteamalpha.com and go to the contact page and give us your email address, and we'll get in touch when we open the doors on it. That is one of our radio shows. But see, the thing is that the mastermind is so powerful, because I think you may have heard about what Art Bell did on a radio show 20-some years ago, when there had not been rain in Texas for 3-4 months. Everything dried up. And he went on the air and he said to the listeners, visualize rain over Texas. Later that night and during the day, the next day, there were thunderstorms all over Texas. Brush fires went out. There were water to the cattle again, and the towns that ran out of water, they got water again. This was, the weather forecasters came out and said, we're dumbfounded. This shouldn't have happened, because in none of the computer models were there any moisture that could create this rain. They didn't understand it, but I did. That was the power of the mind. The unity of mind of millions of people got together. And we can do that. We can do it again. So that's what I want people to be part of.
You think that is what it'll take?
I think that's what it's going to take. And there are people already working on it. Look what happened in the last presidential election. People got together, they were sick of the corruption in Washington, and there was a change.
So we changed things. I mean, the election of Donald Trump, did that change what was going? Has that helped to prevent this?
Is Donald Trump anti-alien?
Well, I know that had his major opponent gotten into office, we would have been deep in a World War III right now, because she promised us that. She said she would bomb Syria. Guess what? Syria has a mutual defense treaty with Russia.
Of course, Trump's bombed Syria a couple of times, but I guess that's kind of been limited.
Yeah, that's very limited.
Yeah.
But he had actually the agreement with Putin to do it.
Yeah.
So you think really what this is about is that anything that serves the purpose of total apocalypse serves the colonizers?
Well, we don't really know yet. But there is something there is pointing in a direction that the whole thing is being guided.
But that's the ideal situation for the colonizers is a dead planet, nitrogen-based atmosphere.
And I'm sure that they have the technology to clean it up pretty fast, so that it wouldn't, in a few years maybe, I'm guessing, but they could have cleaned up the ocean and be back to where they would be comfortable living here, possibly.
But
I'm just theorizing on that one, but that could be.
You think they have to get rid of us, though?
Right, and a nuclear war would be a very good way to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, except for the fallout, then that would be a way to do it. But I think more so, people will do away with
But they could be
themselves.
resistant to radiation. I mean, that's possible.
Yeah, but I think easier ways to do it than that. That's just one big EMP over the United States, and 90% of the people will be dead in 2 years.
Why are we in the way to them?
Good point.
And their goals, though? What makes us in the way?
I don't know. Maybe it's not our planet in the first place. Maybe we just infested it, and maybe they want it back. I'm just guessing.
Like they were here first.
Yeah, they were actually.
Yeah. But
yeah.
So I mean, because Hillary didn't get into office, are we? Did that change things for them? I mean,
Oh yeah, it changed very much so.
okay.
But in the long run, we're still waiting for some changes. So, we just gotta wait and see how it develops.
But what you think, basically, like more nationalism stands up against some kind of globalism, some kind of world order type of direction. But any nationalism is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if there's a good nationalism, look at Germany in 1938. That was nationalism, but that didn't end up too good. So it's got to be, even if there's a dictator, like it is in some countries, there are good and there are bad dictators. There are,
no, I'm sorry, I won't agree with you there. I don't believe in dictatorships.
Yeah, that didn't come out too well.
Yeah, okay.
No, but you can look at some dictators, and there's horrible in those countries, but there are
beneficial aspects. There are beneficial aspects that have existed in history.
Yeah.
To certain dictators. I agree. Yeah.
If one dictator came up and said, I am the dictator and you will live under freedom, you will conduct your affairs, and you will not infringe on anybody's rights or property. Somebody came out with a dictate like that, I'll be all for it. It hasn't happened yet, but I would be for that.
I guess if they did it kind of like the ancient Romans did it, right? Cincinnatus, you're a dictator for a year, and then you go back to your farm after that. I mean, I might be okay with that. I guess it's just, I don't know, human nature. Just if you look at the track record of dictators, I mean,
not very good.
That's not very good. Yeah.
No.
Well, are there any countries that stand in the way of this agenda?
Yeah, Russia. Russia is the only reason that we haven't had World War III yet.
Yeah. So they are actually preventing World War III from happening.
Yeah. And I think both our president and Putin are working together on that. Because from what I hear...
So there is collusion, just in a good way, right?
Collusion for the good, so to speak, because I hear from the White House that Putin and him, they're talking on the phone every week or so, and they laugh and have fun and talking to each other.
Yeah. But that's kind of like that's for the good, because that'll prevent the ultimate goal of Agenda 21 from happening.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it gets complicated.
I mean, how is China involved? Is China involved in any of this?
I think China is non-religious officially.
Yeah.
And they're only about money and the welfare of their own people. Yeah. And if we serve that purpose for them, they're going to work with us. And we do that because we are one of the biggest customers.
Yeah. Well, we kind of have this like intrinsic relationship with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And the thing about it is, too, that if you can ask any futurist, ask him what's going to happen in 2030, 2040. Every one of them will tell you that by 2030, at least by 2040, well over half to 3/4 of the jobs in the world will be done by robots. So what in the world do we need people for?
Yeah, but that kind of actually does worry us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. So do you think that that's by design too? That this is part of the Agenda 21 and the terraforming, and that's what's going to happen?
That's their goal. And there is some conflict between the numbers, actually. The 800,000 I was talking about, and then
that's 300,000 more
500
than the Georgia Guidestone says, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. 500,000 on the Georgia Guidestones, and so it's hard. Maybe they just changed their mind.
Where did the Georgia Guidestones come from?
Well, nobody really knows where it come from. The guy that came there and paid for it and had it set up, he gave them his name, and they thought they
R.C.
knew who
Christian?
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that was all put up, he disappeared. Nobody can find him anymore, and now nobody knows the origin of it. You know, the Georgia Guidestones, you know, it's written in 8 languages, and 4 of them on the top that is written in Babylonian, Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphics.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Rosetta Stone, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, they expect those stones to be around for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think that it was put where it was because of they figured that if, you know, there was a nuclear strike on Atlanta, it would be that much further away to where it, you know, because they really felt like it would jumpstart civilization again. Whoever it was that built it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I want to get you on this subject because this is something that I've been thinking about it for a while, and that's reincarnation.
Oh.
Does this fit in kind of with the same kind of context? I mean, are we reincarnated as human souls? Can we reincarnated as, I mean, for lack of a better word, aliens? I mean, where can this go?
In order to get reincarnated, first you got to die, right?
Sure, that makes sense.
I think, though, that there's some misconceptions about that because the YouTube and internet and pictures everywhere of ghosts. So who are they?
Yeah.
They are the ones in the lower spiritual world that is trapped there. Some of them may not even know they're dead. But the ones that has, what we say, died, of course, my take on that is that there's no such thing as death. There's only change. You walk into a different room with different players and different things.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. And once you go through the tunnel, and there very likely will be one, if you are at least a little bit awake to the spiritual world, you'll find that tunnel. I would say good luck to the atheists. I think when you die, you're gone. They might be the ones that end up in those lower areas, walking around not knowing they're dead. But once you make it through the tunnel, there's a re-education process and a re-evaluation of what you have learned and what you did. So in form kind of a judgment, yeah, there is a judgment day, but you are the judge. This evaluation are done with a few higher spiritual entities. They call themselves the guardians of the soul. And on the basis of what you have learned, and if you completed what you came and created this earth for in your existence, you will decide if you would go back and maybe accomplish something or try something new or learn more. And if you do, there's a master plan for what your new life situation or incarnation is created for you. And this is entirely according to your own wishes, and that is free will.
Do you stay a human being?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to come back as a jackrabbit in Africa. I don't think that. I think you're going to probably come back as a human being.
Is there a post-human being evolution to your spiritual cycles?
Technically, the way I saw it is that you can choose your time in this earth situation. You can go into the past and reincarnate, or you can reincarnate, in fact, into the future. If you have created the future in your mind beforehand, you can walk into it and continue that creation.
So it's kind of like a co-collaborative effort between your future reincarnations?
Yeah. But this master plan they're creating, not for you, but you are creating with them, we must also remember that outside of the physical, in the higher spiritual realms, time and space does not exist as we know it. The past, present, and the future is just sitting there in that soup of potential creation. And there is no distance between the past and the future. So our lifetime outside of the physical could be only a split moment. So when we decide before that panel, so to speak, if we're going to go back and have another lifetime, we go and we do it. Here it seems like 80, 100, 120 years, but there it is just a short moment, and you come back and you do another reevaluation.
Like you went to just one class.
Yeah. And this is why I recommend for people to start looking into and maybe studying astro travel. Because if you do, and you can get out there, you can meet some of those entities that is out there, and it is an incredible experience.
So in addition to what you think are negative entities affecting us in our politics on planet Earth, there are entities we can ask for the help of on the spiritual plane that will help us in our actions here as well?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's why prayers don't work. Yeah, people say, oh, sure, my prayers work. Yeah, but what did you pray for? Steak dinner? But the thing is, a prayer, you got to talk to the ones you are praying to. And if you are praying for something in the physical, that means asking somebody for a favor. That words can be understood. When you are speaking something to something outside of the physical, words are worthless. There's another language that is vivid, colorful pictures, emotion, love, gratitude for already having what you ask for. These kinds of things is the language of the spiritual world, and that's what you have to do in order to get prayers to work.
All right.
Yeah. That's something to think about.
Yeah, we've really run the gamut here from the material to the astral.
Yeah, I think so. But see, the thing is that the universe we live in has no limitation. The only limitation it has is the one we put on it. Because we live in a mind-created universe. Quantum physics has told us that. And there are experiments showing that a future event can reach back into the past and alter the past. So with other words, time and space is not like Newton told us. There is no time and space. It's only in the mind. We create our whole existence around us, and whatever we allow to dwell in our mind the most, that is what we're going to have in our life.
Would you say then that you identify with Hermeticism?
Some, yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of what you just said comes from that idea of the mind of God, or a better word is just consciousness. That consciousness creates the universe.
And that's why I'm saying that most of the universe doesn't even exist, because it doesn't exist until it is being observed or thought of.
Is that like a Heisenberg uncertainty principle?
Yep.
What about parallel universes? Do parallel universes exist?
Absolutely. There are, even quantum physics talk about that. In fact, even Stephen Hawking said he found 9 parallel universes, or other universes, I think he called it. But he also said if he extended the equation, he probably would find more. And I don't think I found him to say that more than once. So I think he should, of course, we lost him, so we lost a great mind there. But others that follow in his footsteps, they should extend the equation, and they will find more universes too. Some of them are parallel to us, and some of them extend up higher than us in vibration and extends into the more plasmatic light specter. And then there are some that is lower than us that is not very well good to be at.
Uh-huh.
In fact, the lower astral worlds, time and space as we know it, actually exist there too, because that's where the ghosts are trapped. They can't get out of there, and they don't know how to think themselves out of there.
Right, because they're like at a lower vibration than we are.
Yeah.
Could some of these beings, these aliens, so to speak, I mean, could they be coming from parallel universes?
Absolutely, yeah. They come from everywhere. Parallel universes, higher universes, other planets. Yeah. And they tell us that for the people that have met with them and been abducted or invited to go on the ship, they're told that.
Yeah.
So, do you think that this this connection that the elites of the world have with these more negative deities, do you think this is some kind of or intelligences, aliens, whatever you want to call them, do you think this is some kind of tradition that's very old, that's handed down from the dawn of civilization, at least in Mesopotamia?
Well, it kind of appears that way, reading the Sumerian tablets at least, and some of the Vedic. There were atomic explosions in India that the ground is still radioactive, and that they say that they think that happened somewhere between probably 9 and 12,000 years ago. So there were higher technologies back then. And in the Sumerian tablets, they talk about people coming from space, and they came here to dig gold, and they created us as a worker bee, and we were not created out of the goodness of their heart. We were created as a slave to work in the mines, and then we got away from them. We got so many of us that they had to leave. And I think they created us for their purpose, not for our purpose. This division between races and nations and stuff, it's bad for mankind, because we should be able to get along, and people would get along. People don't go to war, governments do.
Yeah.
For profit and power.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, for sure. So, I mean, you've got the bad aliens, obviously, that want to take over the world, terraform it through Agenda 21. But you've got to have, at least there's got to be a counter to that, right? So are the good aliens, are they there to kind of like make sure that we all come together as one people eventually?
Well, there is an influence in that direction also, seems like. And there seems like there has been an effort by flying discs to make sure that there is no atomic explosions in space. I seen one video where there was a rocket that was shot up and had a nuclear device on it. They were going to explode it in the higher atmosphere, the edge of space. And there was this ship that came up next to it and shot a beam right at the tip where the nuclear warhead was. Went around on the other side of the rocket, shot another light beam at it. It shot it 4 times. And then the rocket quit and it fell down and did not explode.
So somebody was trying to do an EMP, but
I don't think they really knew at that time what an EMP was, because this was back in the early 1960s, I think.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
they didn't know what it really could do, I think.
Yeah.
But,
so you hear about this where flying discs come down and prevent the nuclear I guess launch, or they mess around with nuclear missile silos and stuff like that. I mean that's you
and that's real.
heard about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's absolutely real.
So then when we pretty much got, we're kind of like in a cosmic war, kind of, basically.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that you could have fun with. If I told you how you could see UFOs every time you go outside, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we'd like to know.
All right. Get your hands on a 4th generation night vision goggles. Those night vision goggles will see higher up into the light specter than what your eye can. And if you take those and go outside at night or right after the sun went down when it's still dark, dusk, point it into the sky, and I will almost guarantee you will see lights, strange light, you will see cigars, you will see triangles, you will see any kind of goofy looking spacecraft. There is a traffic jam up there, and you can see them because night vision are able to pick up the light that comes from this cloaked ship that is either at a higher vibration or in a shield. The reason we know this happened is because during the war, the last one over in Iraq, the soldiers was given the 4th generation night vision goggles and sent out on patrols, and they came back with complaints and say, hey, what's the story here? We see people, and when we take the night vision goggles off, they're not there anymore.
So they were like seeing people on the ground.
Yeah. And then, the officers, they pulled all the night vision goggles in, and they confiscated them. They let the officers have them only because they didn't want that among, the word to come out.
Okay.
But they're a little expensive. But if you go to some auction sites for electronics and stuff, they could be $4,000 to $6,000 for one set of those. But I've seen.
I've got that laying around, Augie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just that's
lucrative here.
That's a day's wage for me.
Yeah, there you go. But I've seen them down to $800 on auctions.
Yeah.
To see UFOs, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the Tesla Spirit Radio. That is how you can communicate with extra, mostly disembodied entities. And Tesla wrote about that, and he said it scares the daylight out of him. He created it, and he didn't want to use it anymore.
Are there blueprints how to make one?
Yeah, there's blueprints on the internet. Google Tesla Spirit Radio, and you'll have an eyeful. In fact, you can buy them for probably about $70, $80.
What?
Or you can get schematics and buy it, make it yourself for about $15.
I'm a shortwave.
Do you have one?
So I'm pretty obsessed.
No, I don't. I've thought about it, but I don't have any time to build one, and I'm not smart enough, I guess.
Oh, okay. I mean, would you use it if you had one?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think I'm going to buy one tonight.
Yeah. Those can be kind of fun, actually. But the thing is that it's not a toy. Because when you make a contact with someone out there, they're going to attach themselves to you a little bit. They're going to come back and say, hey, talk to me again, because
that's what the ham world is like, man.
Yeah, but if you engage
sounds like a Ouija board.
No, not that kind.
Yeah.
That's different. That only brings in the negative entities. Seems like hardly much positive coming out of that. But these, you can find people and make contact with people, and you can hear their voices clearly, the words, and you can actually be able to transfer messages from these entities to some relatives that needed the message or something like that. You can really have a lot of fun with it. And also help the people on the other side. Tell them you don't have to be there. Find a light and go right in the middle of it.
Okay. Yeah, that does sound remarkably helpful.
Yeah.
Well, Seraphiel, did you have any questions?
No, like I said, we kind of went from the Ruta to the Tuta, as we say down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we ran over a little bit.
Oh, that's all good. We where can people find you, Aage? Where can they find the latest video and some of your other stuff?
The latest video that deals with the aliens and Agenda 21. It is a phenomenal video. I was sitting in the chair for 5 hours talking, and they took 2 hours of that and created a video where I explain the problem, but I also explain the solutions. And that is, you can go to Amazon, they have it, or just Google aliens and Agenda 21, and you will find it.
Okay.
And otherwise, I do 3 radio shows, and one of them is at www.broadcastteamalpha.com. And we do videos there, and of course I just get in touch with me on Facebook and places, and we can stay in touch.
Okay. Well, excellent. I think we're done with this segment.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Nice to meet you.
One more thing I want to mention.
Sure.
Is that book I mentioned, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. It is not just it's not a novel. It's the real thing, and it teaches you how to use your mind in ways you have never been taught before. You can do some amazing things once you start understanding what you are and what your capabilities are. Anything from astral travel. And in the last chapter of it, I talk about how people can actually do time travel. And I have photographic evidence on my website about that. Maybe I should give that website out.
Oh, you got to tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, it's www.aage-nost.com.
So have you done this type of time travel?
Well, I have some photographic evidence of the 2 pictures next to each other on page 8 in the picture gallery, where I have 4,900 pictures of strange stuff. And the 2 pictures are actually at the same time, but they are different, and it's the same image on them. But in one of them, there's a story behind. You can actually read the story on the in the photo gallery. It's explained very well. I did an experiment. I took a picture actually through the internet from my computer to a newspaper video camera in Europe. And quite a few hours later, I took another picture where I did a mind experiment, and I tried to bring myself back to the exact same time as I took the first picture. I missed it by 1 minute and 5 seconds, but I got close. In one picture, a tree right in the front has leaves on it, and the other picture, the tree has no leaves on it. And one of them, there's heavy rain, the other one has no rain, but it's only 1 minute apart. And there's some story to that. Besides, I have an electronic device that I've had some very strange experiences with. And in 2003, BBC Television came over to the United States and did a TV documentary on time travel. And they interviewed Michio Kaku and Green and another theoretical physicist and myself. And I demonstrated my electronic device on that BBC Television documentary.
Do you know if that's on YouTube or anything?
Yeah, it is. No. Come to think of it, you may have to call it Time Trip. It's the title of it, and you may be able to find it. I haven't looked for, a long time, but it's somewhere. You should be able to find it.
Oh, okay.
At least through BBC Television. I'm sure they still have it on their website.
Okay. Well, very interesting stuff. And thank you so much for coming on. Stay on the line for us, and we're just going to close this section out. Guys, we'll be back. We're going to do a 2-guest show tonight, so we'll be back on Conspirinormal.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've got a listener on the line that Jedediah from Indiana, and he raises goats and he listens to Conspirinormal. And we want to welcome him to the show,
And
man.
metal.
And metal, yeah. Man, just out of curiosity, dude, how did you find this show?
Well, not to be like too advertising for a different podcast, but I used to listen to, and you were on it, Canary Cry.
Yes, I was. Yeah. They were supposed to have me on a future show, but it never happened, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, they don't put out very many.
I've noticed that.
But anyways, you're going to laugh, but I was sitting on top of a chicken coop that I was making for like a family close to here. And I was like, who is this hysterical dude talking? Because it was like you and Luke. And you had me laughing so hard I had to come down from the roof. But I cannot remember what episode it was. But it was an old one, man. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke does not realize the sheer power that he had on this show.
His cultural impact.
Yes, yes.
I know. I'm friends with him on Facebook, though.
Yeah, I noticed you guys talk a lot. I've noticed. I actually only live like 2 buildings down from Luke, and I hardly see him. So I kind of feel you, man.
It happens in life. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. It does. But you have some interesting personal experiences, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit.
Sure. You want me to just kind of rattle off some, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were recently on Strange Familiars with our good friend Tim Renner, and you talked about an experience that you had as I guess were you little? Were you a child at the time? That you saw something in a window?
I was younger than like 13.
Okay.
But but I wasn't like 5.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. It's kind of I was up there so much in Michigan when I was little, and up into my teens that it's hard to remember exactly specific.
Okay.
You want to hear that story real quick?
Yeah. Tell it.
Okay. So, all right. So we're up. My grandma and grandpa lived up in northern Michigan. It's still in the main part of Michigan. Maybe Rob knows where Oscoda County is.
I'm sure it's somewhere on the mitten, right?
Yeah. It's like the second knuckle of the middle finger, I think. And anyways, so we would all go up there. Like, I have a big family, and that was kind of like our gathering spot during the summers. And so, like, when the family was there's like a bunch of bedrooms, and when the family was all there, like on the main floor, I would sleep in like the living room on a couch, and then my parents were in a living room or in a bedroom like down the hall from there, but not real far, like probably about 7 steps away. And then that living room where I slept on the couch was all open to the dining room, and then there's like two big picture windows. And one night, it was, I don't know for sure, but I know it was like, middle of the night, everybody's sleep sound in the house. And I woke up, and I was awake, and when I look out the window, my grandmother's brother lived up there too. I should have said that. He lived in the basement of this place, kind of different. And he was probably in his 70s. And I thought I saw him, like, standing in the window, but on the outside of the house, looking in. But then I realized I saw 2 of them. And then I realized from the face it wasn't my uncle. And he had, like, a kind of a yellow, tobacco-stained looking, kind of smoky yellow, like, flannel shirt. But there was 2 of the same guy, and they were talking to each other and like moving their arms like real emphatically, as they were, I guess, talking. It looked like they were like almost miming to each other. And I kind of looked real close, and then they turned. So they both turned at the same time, and then I saw their face, absolutely knowing that it wasn't my uncle or because there's only one of my uncle anyway. There were two like standing right next to each other, but their face was doing this like circular, weird neck motion that like the barn owls do. Because like I used to watch a lot of nature shows when I was little, and that barn owl like motion wigged me out, like their face. So I turned quickly to look over the couch to like make sure I didn't trip over a bunch of stuff because it was kind of a cluttered house. To get to my parents' bedroom, and so I turned, looked over my shoulder. When I looked back, they were gone. And it was really
And they were. You said they were wearing the same thing. They were wearing the same thing. It was the same guy.
Yeah, like I didn't see like their pants, but the same shirt. It was like the same guy, but two of them. They're clean shaven. They were elderly. It was kind of dark, so I can't quite remember if they had like hats on or if they just had like black hair. There wasn't like a ball cap or cowboy hat or anything. And it was just super weird because my uncle was like super like shiny bald. So, and I knew it wasn't him because it wasn't his face. Otherwise, it'd been like, Delbert, whatever.
But that's just what your initial impression, like, oh, it's my uncle. Oh shit, no, it ain't.
Yeah, right. It scared me. And then when they both turned right at me, they stopped moving their arms. Their arms went down their side, and then their heads were like making a circular pattern, like it wasn't even attached to their neck.
Like it was kind of absurd or kind of like animal or mechanical, like a weird little twitch.
Fluid. Like it was too fluid to be a person doing that.
That's,
I don't know.
Kind of reminds me of the creatures in like Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah. I mean, that's textbook though, that's what strange things like that, they come through in an absurd way.
That was very bizarre. So that was that. I don't know if I had too many other experiences up there. I do remember this one time when I was young. Now this, I was probably like 8. They lived on top of this really big hill, and in the winter we go sledding down it. And Grandpa put like a big light on the top of the hill, and it shined down in. And so like this hill was like, I don't know how to describe how big it was. Maybe it was like an acre, but like the center of it was raised up to be a steep hill. And then there was yet another acre of flat, and then it just went into like black, like pine forest. So I was out there sledding at night, and I go down and get somewhat near the woods, and then, get my sled and go back up and go back down. And this one time I was doing it, I got down to the bottom, and like my whole body just like froze, and I was like, this is something I've done like 100 times before, but this time I did it, I was like shaking with fear. And so I just started singing. Like I'm not really singing, but I started singing some like Sunday school songs.
Okay.
And grabbed my and I just felt like there was something like staring at me from that wood line. And I like walked backward up the hill, staring at this one spot in the woods, and was singing like at the top of my lungs, like these little like Sunday school songs. And my dad had come out and to get me because it was getting late, 8:39 for like a little kid to be out there. And he's like, "What are you singing for?" And I didn't know what to say, but that I totally remember that feeling, and it was like that feeling where your spirit knows and it recognizes some other spirit that's out of place or something.
This was in Michigan as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this was prior to the owl face guys or whatever they were, owl necks.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few years. But I guess I kind of told you that story because I've always had that feeling of kind of recognizing an energy, but I'm not trying to say like everywhere I go I'm like this empath. But there's certain times in my life when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was something there, and I knew it.
Yeah, you recognize another presence.
Yeah, it was like a red alert in my spirit. It was not comforting.
It makes me think about all those woods that are up there, and how that all these dog man stories and about Wisconsin and about Michigan, and you kind of see that that's kind of like the locus of that, even though it's all over the country. But it makes me think about things like the Native Americans talked about, like the Wendigo and those type of spirits of the woods, and I think there's something. I think there's something there.
Yeah, well, even Jesus talked about, in the desert. I mean, or even in the Old Testament, it talked about the desert, the wilderness. What was I going to say?
And then as Europeans too, as Europeans, the people who colonized this place and people who had homesteads and were out on the frontier. I mean, it was, it was it was you against nature, and it was a whole new. I think a kind of like a rediscovering of a lot of like old ways, and pagan nature came with that too, and it's. I think we encountered a lot here, like, including, even if that's just some kind of like Jungian, like, externalization of things in ourselves, like, it's still, the whole idea of that,
Well, when the Pilgrims came here, the Puritans, they would talk about that, like what lives in the woods, what kind of evil is out there in the woods. If you've seen the film The Witch, you get an indication of what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I got 3 Black Phillips, by the way.
You got 3 Black Phillips?
I got 3 Black Phillips. I got daddy and son Black Phillips, but they're all Christian. So.
Well, that's good.
Hey, I do want to say this too. My grandma, when she was alive, would periodically go through the woods on foot. I mean, I did tell you that they had like almost 200 acres.
Sure.
And it bordered the Huron National Forest, so it was pretty wild stuff. She would periodically go out and spend hours just praying and quote talking with Jesus in the woods. So I don't know. That's all there is to that. But
that's everywhere in most spiritual traditions. Cool. Most spiritual traditions, they have that. You commune with your higher power in nature.
I think that's probably the best way to really do it. It's hard to do it in concrete, but
tell us about the possessed child that you witnessed.
What?
Yeah, the possessed child.
Me?
You?
What? You gotta kind of jog my memory.
You said you were living in some kind of house.
Oh,
and
God,
there was this girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, well, I know, but I just totally went like, I don't know why I was thinking like, omen, then a male. No, this was scary. Okay, so this was during my turning my back on everything I'd ever learned. I would drink just heavily, and I was living, it wasn't like a girlfriend, but it was a girl that was a friend. She lived on the south side of Indy. And she had like a what do you call it, duplex? She lived in the side of duplex. It was like a double-story house thing. And we would just, I mean, I'm almost like sorry to say this, but like I would drink a fifth at least of, cheap whiskey every day. It's not like working on a half gallon, right?
Yeah.
have no direction in my life. I just really want to be. This is like a dark time. I was also the girl was and I were pretty curious of the dark arts, and she had lots. I think she had all the Crowley work. I know she had like 4 of them at least, so there's probably a lot more. But anyways, I was, into that somewhat, but I never tried anything per se. But anyways, there was this one time where we've been drinking probably. Well, I stayed there 2 months, I think, and I drank every single day. It might have been 1 month, but whatever, it's kind of a blur. I would drink, as soon as I was up, pass out, wake up, and sometimes I'd wake up like in the middle of the night, drunk but sober at the same time, because it's so used to it. Well, anyways, so I hope that doesn't it is what it is. But I know something crazy happened this night. So she's passed out on the couch. Another friend's passed out on the seat next to me. I wake up, in the early morning hours, but it's still dark. And, being a heavy drinker, partier then, I've been up all throughout the night before, multiple times. So, but something was super strange. I woke up and I was sober as a judge feeling. But, all the shadows, I'm kind of getting, chills telling you this. All the shadows in this house were, 50 times darker than normal. It didn't feel right. The room felt kind of crooked in a weird way. A feeling, not, visually crooked, okay? And something just told me to go check on she had a daughter, I'm sorry. And she was up on the second story and she was sleeping. And something told me, hey, go check on, this young girl. I started up the stairs and these stairs was against the wall of the other side of the house that nobody lived in. And I was walking up these stairs. I just felt more and more pressure, like an air pressure heaviness. And at the top of the stairs, you take an immediate left, and you would be standing right in the doorway of this girl's room. And she has a nightlight on. So I get up to the top of the stairs, I take that left, and right as I look into the room, she's laying on her back. She bends completely 90 degrees. Her back's flat, and lets out this crazy loud scream. And she had this, a shelf mounted to the wall above her bed with little kid knickknacks all over it.
Uh-huh.
This thing explodes off the wall. Stuff goes everywhere, and she just starts ugh. So she screams and then just starts crying and screaming that there's glass all in her bed. Well, she's under the covers. So, of course, Mom, rambles up the stairs. And I'm like, hey, she's saying her legs are cut and stuff. And then there's glass in her bed. Well, this debris that came off the shelf, landed on top of the covers. And then we, got the covers back. There wasn't any in the bed sheets, but she had cuts, not hundreds of them, but I don't know, 6 shallow scratch cuts that were just ready to bleed, not quite bleeding. And so I'm like, what is this? And she's like, the mom is like, oh, so-and-so has night terrors all the time. I hadn't witnessed any of this, young kids screaming.
Yeah.
In the time I was there. But the next day, that girl went off to work. They took the kid to the babysitter. I packed everything, grabbed my cat, and I was out of there. And I left. And actually, I went straight to my parents' church and just posted up in the parking lot until someone showed up. And I was like, dude, I need a place to live. So I completely lost touch with that whole family, but that was scary, man.
That affected you so profoundly that kind of changed your viewpoint on everything.
I'm not, dude. Yeah, I mean that's like a scared straight.
Yeah.
I have never thought more clearly. Now I'm not saying I was perfect from that day on.
Sure.
But my heart was like, you get back to your father, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah, I can imagine at that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that same feeling when I woke up and saw those. I'm not saying I saw any shadows moving, but those shadows, like under the table, behind the curtain, were such an inky darkness that same feeling that I had was that same feeling when I was little, staring at that one spot in the woods.
It makes me wonder about that house that you were in, and that being kind of this house where everybody was drinking and partying, and
negativity.
that negativity and that darkness just kind of fed on all of that and became manifest in that room. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was terrible. Anyways.
Yeah.
What's next?
Well, I mean, are there any questions that you got for us? I mean,
I'm trying to think. What happened to Thad McCracken?
What happened to Thad McCracken?
I almost got in a wreck the other day listening to that again.
I heard you wanted to hear Rob do the dog man.
Dude, that would be so funny.
Maybe I can make a beat for him. It'll be like the Bart man.
Yeah. I don't know what it was about last episode, but that was so funny. I mean, you guys, there was good chemistry going on there.
Yeah.
I was dying. But I don't really have like too many serious questions. I do have to ask you, Adam.
Sure.
As I know you identify as a Christian.
Yeah.
Have you went to the, I don't know what it was, but that ritual deal that you kind of like observed.
Yeah.
Have you had any other weird lingering things or?
No. I really
been jostled.
No, I really haven't. I really haven't. I kind of felt like, I mean, I'll admit I was kind of participant in the proceedings, but in the same time, when you're doing that, I kind of feel like just an observer as well. If that makes sense, because I don't know really what's going on. I mean, it's weird because I believe in a spiritual world, but at the same time, I'm also very skeptical. And I don't know whether what's going on is really a spiritual thing or whether it's something that is psychological in makeup.
Exactly.
It's real hard. I mean,
but it doesn't sound like you got a negative impression.
No, I really didn't. I really didn't get a negative impression after it. It really didn't linger with me after, positively or negatively, really. To me, almost, I just felt like it was just another form of belief. Honestly, I didn't feel like there was anything really evil or
right.
I think I did feel some.
Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that. But,
sure, no. I felt like there was some kind of I did feel some kind of trepidation of whether I should do this. I mean, definitely, I've been in other situations where I felt trepidatious. For sure. I think it's just where the intention of the person lies.
Right.
Ren is a pretty decent guy, and I think he's pretty serious about what he's doing. So, but I think, just that religious aspect of it as well. Now, I can't speak for the other guys in the room though.
Right.
And it was angelic. It was angelic and not demonic. He also does demonic conjurings.
That was the thing. That was the thing. Maybe that for me.
Yeah.
that he said that it was the angel Gabriel, and of course, front loaded into my mind is thinking of Gabriel from a Christian aspect.
Sure.
So maybe I didn't think that, maybe if he said it was Asmodeus, I might be a little bit more, well, wait a minute, guys. I don't know if I can go through with this.
Right.
I'll be in the lobby.
Yeah. But I do have to wonder what the person next door thought.
Oh, yeah, man.
At 2:30 in the morning, as it was thundering and lightning, and dogs were barking.
If you have a few minutes,
yeah.
You said that in the podcast, and it reminded me of something, of like ritual spillover. And I had told a story about on the other show on Tim about when my wife and I were. It was like right around Christmas, might have been Christmas Eve. We were just sitting in our living room in our apartment, and we both absolutely felt, and my wife says she even saw like a black thing in her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I even did think at the time, really, that somebody was doing something that day, and it was almost like it spilled over into our apartment. And so I don't know. It's weird. And the reaction to
it could be.
Huh?
It could be.
Yeah, like the reaction to it real fast was, I kind of prayed like within myself, not really out loud, and the answer was just make yourself like my child, and I'll protect you. And so we made some little animals out of clay and listened to some Johnny Cash Christian Christmas music.
Well,
but
that's the thing.
I don't know. I know that came from somewhere like in that apartment building. Like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't know, but whatever.
Putting yourself in some kind of positive realm, I think, is good.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that this stuff, man, I mean, honestly, I think that it's all energy. And I think that the energy itself, electricity runs on negative and positive, right?
Yeah.
Negative ions, positive ions. So if we think about our own kind of mental or psychic kind of energy, then I think it would probably work on the same kind of principle. That there's a negative and there's a positive. And, we can interpret that how we want, as being good or evil. It may be more of a neutral kind of energy. But yeah, I definitely do think that in those cases where there are negative energies that feed on us, I think we can feel it. I think that it's palpable. And I think when you do something like you listen to the Johnny Cash Christian album, you can, just like that's positive for you. And, you wipe those things out. I think it's very easy for us to kind of come to this conclusion of just like, well, this is all a demonic thing. But I think that's just a word, honestly. And I think it's just, the negative stuff, we can, I agree with our last guest, we can kind of defeat that if we really put our minds to it. The negative stuff can really prey on you, and it's really a vicious kind of cycle.
And like you're talking about the spillover stuff, it makes me think that, a lot of when a lot of people experience some kind of other presence, they'll very often say that it feels just like it was passing through.
Yeah.
Or when you see it and it recognizes you, it's like, oh shit, what are you doing? Oh, what am I doing here? Oh, boom, gone.
You know what? You're right on the money. There was that it felt like it was like, what are you doing here? Because this is the right apartment.
Yeah. I mean,
like I don't know.
It's good that seems to be a lot of negative experiences happen like that, and it's just passing through and gone. It's better than a place being inhabited.
Right.
For all you know, somebody was messing with something on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's
I think we had some very interesting neighbors.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I think that's key. Is that, and this is where I will kind of take a little bit of umbrage with some of these people in the occult. Is, do you know what you're messing with? Do you know what you're dealing with? Do you know that this is a real thing? I mean, even in that, what I took part in, I kind of felt like, there's a real power here, even if it is psychological, and something could still feed off of that if it really, really wanted to.
Well, yeah, and the other side of in psychology, being possessed, or the other side of that is madness. Losing control of your mind, of your ego, of your individuality.
Right.
That's
right.
So it's terrifying either way.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've had quite a few things like that, but it's just funny because I've always been like, man, if I could just see something for sure. And then I don't know. It's like I look back and I'm like, every time there was like a way out of the situation that was brought to me by, I believe, Christ.
Sure.
In every one of those, it was never like you lash out against it, you do this. It was more like call on me and I'll take care of it. You go sit down.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
I agree with that completely.
This is so crazy and awful, guys, but I kind of have to go because it's so late here.
Oh, yeah, you're good, man.
Like, super
you're good.
Early in the morning.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. It's a good time, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, Jedediah, thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming on the show and talking to us. I mean, it's always awesome to talk to a fan of the show, and I think that, you yourself bring a lot to the table with your experiences.
Cool. Well, the goats and I here in Indiana say, God bless you guys, and keep it up.
Thanks,
All right, sir. Thank you so much. All right, we'll stay on the line for us real quick. We're going to close this section out, and we'll be back to close out the show, this time on Conspirinormal. Oh, I need to put my earphones on.
Wait. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Just got my biotech alien download, dog.
This has been a very special episode of Conspirinormal, guys. I hope that you understand that. You got really the price of 2 for 1 on this one.
Yeah.
I really want you to, appreciate what we bring to the table here. So, Serapio, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite the wild ride there. That was, I mean, as far as what's most recently on my mind, it was cool talking to one of our favorite listeners.
Yeah.
And before that, that was, we ran quite the gamut.
Yes, we did.
To say the least.
Yes, we did. I mean, that was,
we like to remain open and just let people express themselves for the most part. So
yeah.
It was pretty far out.
And try to ask as many questions as we can whenever we can. But
we like having an open forum, with some kind of limits.
That's what it is. And we've had some tiki drinks in the last couple hours.
Yeah.
So I think that made the show extra special.
I think we only had about 3 Mai Tais, but they're pretty good. It's original recipe, so.
Only 3. Yeah. You've been getting seriously into the tiki stuff lately.
It's alchemy.
All right. So before we bring this extra special show to a close, I want to address something. So we've been around for about 7 years. We've been doing this. And we have done the show for free. And that is how podcasting goes. You put out something for free and people consume it. We've had Patreon now for, I think, around maybe closer to 3 years at this point that we've been doing that. And Patreon has been rather hit or miss. That is what it is. We're still doing stuff on Patreon. We have decided, because we have been approached, to start doing some advertising on the show. And I want to be completely honest about this. That may be a good thing to use in the future.
Yeah.
For our listeners. I have been rather uncomfortable about doing that because I kind of come from this, well, I guess for lack of a better term, punk rock tradition, indie rock tradition of not selling out to the man, so to speak.
Right.
But there does come a time when you really got to look at, what you're doing and the time that you put into something as a podcaster. I'm not necessarily saying that this is something that is going to last, but we are going to try it. So you are, as listeners, you are going to hear commercials, advertisements from time to time. Now, what I'm thinking about doing is not doing it organically. I don't know if that really works for me to say something about a product and say that we are going to just go into it organically. We're going to have just a section of the show, either at the beginning or somewhere in the middle, that is going to talk about our advertisements, whatever those are going to be. And I'm going to try to keep those short. But this is where you guys kind of come in. And another way that you can kind of support Conspirinormal is to go to these URLs that we're going to give you for these advertisements. We're not doing it on this particular episode, but next episode we will be. And using those to, if you want to buy that particular company's services, using that. And you guys can support us by doing that. So this is very much still kind of an egalitarian kind of thing. And I'm going to see how this works, because this is something we haven't tried yet. We are still going to have Patreon. It is still going to be there. You are still going to get if you are a Patreon, you are still going to get extra material from Patreon. We have started this whole thing where we are going to start doing every other Romper Room episode on the Patreon feed only. So if you want to hear that, that's where you got to go. And I am still kind of currently working on some swag that we're going to have for the different kind of levels. I want to get that all kind of situated and set up. So that's still a goal of mine to do.
Patreon is still an entirely different thing. It's about getting more.
Right. And, you're not going to hear, obviously, you're not going to hear any commercials on there because you're already paying for it.
Right.
So I think really what I'm going to do with Patreon is like whatever you can give is as little as $1 is going to get you into Patreon. I think that that's fair. I think that if we have thousands of listeners that are going to give us $1, then we could more than pay for this show.
Right.
So I think that that's a good idea. Any thoughts on this that you want to add, sir?
My thought is if anyone has criticism, a lot of this is being done out of the fact that we're not compromising on our content.
Yeah.
We're not out here trying to chase more of the masses by trying to alter the show. So, that's something you definitely don't have to worry about. But when you are as niche and as in depth into things, and like we are, it's not for everybody, so it's harder to crowdsource things like that.
Yeah,
even though we have a pretty large audience, it's still it's niche. It's the people who've been into the stuff for a while who are trying to dig deeper and want to have and also we're not pretentious jackasses, so you get that benefit.
We're still going to do the long form interviews.
Oh yeah.
I've heard other podcasts where such things are just like constantly interrupted by commercials.
Right.
I'm going to try to not make that happen. Like I said, I want these at just like specific times during the show. But as I mentioned before, this is another way that you guys can help us. If you cannot give to Patreon, if you cannot make a one-time donation, then please, whoever we're advertising, support them, and then know that actually goes to support us as well. So I think that's all I want to say on that. Next time, guys, I've got scheduled Jack Brewer to come back on the show. We're gonna talk about some more skullduggery in the UFO world. I'm really excited to have Jack back on. That was one of our best shows of 2017. So we're kind of digging back to some of the older guests that we've had on. So I will let Seraphiel take us out. Tell everybody where they can find us on Patreon and what we've got available on there.
Patreon.com/Conspirinormal. We've got a lot of bonus content, bonus shows. We got some mini documentary we made. We've got romper rooms, and we're going to be getting a little more creative with the romper rooms and going all out and trying to make a kind of more theatrical experience. Just to have fun and hear us kind of talking shit. So patreon.com/Conspirinormal and one-time donation at Conspirinormal.com.
Yes, sir.
You don't want to sign up for Patreon. But like Adam said, we're going to be changing the pay structure. So maybe, just as little as $1 might get you into some content, some extra episodes. I know that's how I started down this Conspirinormal path.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, as always. And we love you. And we'll be back on Conspirinormal. My ties.